With the week rolling along, we're happy you're spending part of your Wednesday with CNN 10. I'm Carl Azus at the CNN Center. It's always good to see you. Election results are in from Canada, and the nation's incumbent Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, is set to serve another 4-year term in office. But election results for him were a mixed bag. In the vote that was held on Monday, Prime Minister Trudeau's political party, the Liberal Party, won enough seats for him to stay in power as Prime Minister. But the party lost its majority in Parliament. It needs to have 170 seats for that. And though the Liberals won 184 seats in the last election, they won 157 in this one. Canada's Conservative Party, the main opponents of the Liberals, gained seats in this election, winning 121 of them, but that too is short of a majority. So for Prime Minister Trudeau's party to pass any major legislation, it'll have to get support from other smaller parties within Parliament. So compromise will have to factor into that, and by many accounts, including one by Prime Minister Trudeau, this election was a divisive one for Canada. The nation shares a border with only one other country, the United States. Ahead of Canada's election, former U.S. President Barack Obama endorsed Prime Minister Trudeau, and after it, current U.S. President Donald Trump congratulated Trudeau on his victory. Up next, a settlement worth hundreds of millions of dollars related to America's opioid epidemic. A trial was set to begin this week. The plaintiffs were 2 counties in Ohio, and the defendants were 4 pharmaceutical companies. The counties accused the drug distributors of not doing enough to make sure that the orders they filled were going to people that needed them and not to the black market. The companies were also accused of ignoring signs there was a problem concerning opioids in northeastern Ohio. Hours before the trial began, the 4 companies agreed to a settlement worth $260 million. They said they strongly disputed the county's accusations, but that they believed settling the trial would be an important step toward, quote, achieving a global resolution and delivering meaningful relief. They also said they expected the settlement money would be used to fight the opioid epidemic by treating and rehabilitating people who abuse the drugs. This was one legal case concerning the opioid epidemic. There are more than 2,700 others like it awaiting trial. The problem is widespread across America. Between 1999 and 2017, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control says almost 400,000 people died from overdosing on opioids. That includes both prescription and illegal drugs.
Sometimes it's gnawing, other times it's sharp. It can be a persistent ache or a sudden shooting burn. It's pain. Everyone knows what it is, but how is it relieved? When you accidentally touch a hot stove or try to walk on a sprained ankle, special pain-sensing nerves called nociceptors are triggered to send neural messages up your spine and into your brain. In turn, your brain releases naturally occurring opioids. These chemicals lock into opioid receptors throughout your body to help dull the pain and generally calm you down. They also hit receptors in the brain stem that slow down breathing. Now, you've likely heard of opioid drugs like oxycodone, hydrocodone, even heroin. These drugs, all chemically similar, mimic the body's own naturally occurring endorphins. Prescription opioids are one of the most common ways for doctors to treat pain, but the more opioids you take, the less natural opioid your body makes, and the less sensitive you become to the drugs, pushing you to take even higher and higher doses to get any relief and increasing your chances of an overdose.
10-second trivia. Which of these World War II battles was a turning point in the fight between the U.S. and Japan? Battle of the Bulge, Battle of Midway, Battle of the Coral Sea, or Battle of Kursk? Fought in early June of 1942, the Battle of Midway, a naval battle, was an important victory for America. There were 4 Japanese aircraft carriers destroyed in the Battle of Midway, and within the past week, the remains of 2 of them have been located by a team of deep-sea explorers. The Kaga was found last Wednesday, and the Akagi was found on Sunday. That shipwreck rests more than 17,000 feet beneath the surface of the Pacific. It's located about 1,300 miles northwest of Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and historians say both of these carriers participated in the attacks on Pearl Harbor. The Akagi was sunk on June 5, 1942. It was reportedly detected by an autonomous underwater vehicle which took sonar images of the site and matched them with the dimensions of the lost Japanese warship. A U.S. naval historian says, unlike land war, ocean battles leave nothing we can see on the surface. So finding these shipwrecks will give historians a new perspective on the Battle of Midway. The pastor of Canida Chapel Missionary Baptist Church did not like farming when he was a kid. Reverend Richard Joyner is the son of sharecroppers. He says the last thing he wanted to do when he grew up was work in the fields. But as an adult, the work that Joyner thought he'd hate has turned into something he loves. It made him a CNN hero back in 2016, and it's helped improve his community of just under 300 people in Canida, North Carolina.
Canida was a food desert, but I wanted to do something about it. We began to grow, and we began to put our hearts and hands together, and Canida is no longer a food desert. Canida is a food oasis. I'm Reverend Richard Earl Joyner, founder of Canida Family Life Center. Canida is a rural area in the eastern part of North Carolina, population of about 300 people. A food desert really means that the residents here do not have access to fresh, locally affordable grown foods. We buy most of our food from discount stores, which are high in sodium, calories, very low nutritional values. People had these early stages of chronic disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart attacks, strokes, and even mental illness because of the stress and some pain. People were dying in their 30s and 40s. We would be having 2 to 3 funerals a month and really devastating families. I was really feeling overwhelmed and feeling hopeless because I couldn't stop this chronic disease. I pulled inside the road and really started praying, wanting to know what could I do. And I had this epiphany of open your eyes, look around. And I opened my eyes and all I saw was fields. So we started our first small garden, and now we're up to 21 acres of farmland. We have about 8 people that are parents and grandparents of our youth that work here every day. We have 40 students during the summer that use this farm for their reading, writing, math, and science, and for food. Presently on our farm, we have blueberries, tomatoes, we have collards, we have squash, we have zucchini. We end up averaging 100 pounds of food per week out of the garden. Food that we grow has had a tangible impact upon our community. We're able to put food on people's tables. Hello, having vegetables, all right. Our community is spending $4,000 less a month on prescription pills because of the food. The deaths have slowed down. We're not having as many funerals. I feel like we are making a difference. I love this community here because we're uniting around saving lives together.
Following yesterday's Halloween-themed 10 out of 10 segment, you've heard of The Walking Dead. Take a ride with the Biking Dead. What else would you expect at the Florida Keys Fantasy Fest Zombie Bike Ride? This is part of a 10-day festival that takes place every year. There's a lot of makeup, a lot of creativity that goes into this, and not much speed, so you can get a good gander at the 11,000 undead people who participated. And there's no place they'd rather zombie. Now, it might not look too real, but it is two-wheeled. A zombie apocalypse that's a ride of the living dead. For some, it's killer. For others, it's thriller. And haters can just hoist up the zombie sail and go home to another zombie land. I'm Carl Azus for CNN 10.